Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who have joined us for the webinar today. Thank you for being with us. I think many of you registered. We are more than 200 today, which is excellent. My name is Pascal Rapia. I'm Head of Policy, External Relations, and Communication at the Geneva International Centre for Humanitarian Demining, and I will be moderating this event. We are here today to discuss about the enabling role of mine action, ensuring safe roads, providing better access to healthcare, education, and other services, allowing for the productive land of use of land, are only few examples of the transformative role that mine action can play. As we will hear today, mine action provides a foundation for sustainable development in the long term. Specifically, today, we will be exploring the role of mine action activities in promoting development in Jordan. The GICHD is releasing today a case study conducted with the support of UNDP and NCDR and funded by Italy. We will first hear introductory remarks from our distinguished guest, His Royal Highness Prince Mired Rad Zaid Al Hussein, Chairman of the National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation of Jordan. His Excellency Ambassador Gianfranco Incarnato, Permanent Representative of Italy to the Conference on Disarmament, and Mrs. Osaka Okai, Assistant Secretary General, Assistant Administrator, and Director of Crisis Bureau at UNDP. After these introductory remarks, key findings of the study will be presented by Mr. Mohamed Baikat, National Director of the National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation of Jordan, and Ms. Angela Oyos Ibora, Policy Advisor at the GICHD. You will then have the possibility to raise questions during a Q&A session. So from now onwards, I encourage you to kindly submit your questions using the Q&A button on your screen. For your information, the webinar will be recorded, and we'll also be sharing the presentation and the link to the recording with everyone shortly after the event. I am pleased now to give the floor to our first guest, Your Royal Highness. Please, the floor is yours.
We can hear you.
Sorry, you're mute, Your Excellency.
There we go.
There.
Okay. Your Excellencies, colleagues, dear friends, good afternoon or good morning to you all. Greetings to everyone from sunny Amman. I'm extremely delighted to be with you. This event has made me gush with pride. I am chuffed to bits, as the British would say. The fact that the GICHD, in conjunction with other partners, has sought to publish a report on the sustainable development outcomes of mine action in Jordan is a testament, in my view, to the success that we have achieved. Had we attempted ourselves to publish such a document, many, I suspect, would have viewed it with a bit of skepticism, believing it to be a bit of self-promotion. Anyhow, I am truly honored and thankful to GICHD, the UNDP, the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Italian Development Corporation and all the other entities that contributed to the successful completion of this study. On behalf of the National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation, NCDR, that I chair, as well as all our people and soldiers that worked in demining in the past, and also on behalf of our survivors, I wish to thank you all wholeheartedly for your acknowledgement of our efforts and our determination to squeeze as much juice out of the lemon as possible. When I was appointed as the chair of NCDR in 2004, the notion or the idea of us successfully clearing all our contamination within 8 years seemed a far-fetched idea, divorced from reality. However, as you will hear in the presentations today, we got it done, and a great percentage of the lands cleared were swiftly earmarked for development. My team and I at NCDR realized very early on that the only way that we would achieve the monumental task, because if we were to act responsibly, professionally, have a serious approach, and try our level best to tick all the boxes, we knew that if we did not take ownership of the problem, no one or no entity would come rallying in support of our efforts. At this juncture, I must point out that we were immensely supported by the UNDP via its chief technical advisor, Dr. Olaf Jørgensen, who was embedded with us at NCDR. His continued presence and sound counsel helped us see the way forward and realize that the linking mine action to development, if and when possible, was absolutely the right and clever thing to do. So a big thanks again to Dr. Jørgensen and the UNDP as always. Since my dear friend and longtime colleague and partner, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Brekat, the Director General of NCDR, will soon speak more concisely about the positive outcomes of demining in Jordan, I will just say a few words about the emphasis we are placing or have placed for a long time on human development, and more precisely as it pertains to mainstreaming, victim assistance, or survivor rights, as I prefer to call it. Jordan was one of the first countries in the Middle East to accede to the CRPD and to commit to its implementation. We realized then, and still do, that in order to succeed, our planning had to be meticulous, our utilization of resources efficient, and our vision long-term. To this end, our most notable legislative achievement in the recent past was the complete overhaul that we conducted of our old disability legislation and the enactment of a new forward-thinking, ambitious, and progressive law number 20 for the year 2017 for the rights of persons with disabilities. That naturally includes Landmine and UXO survivors. This new law is different because it places responsibility for the implementation of its articles squarely on the shoulders of the various government ministries, agencies, etc., as well as the private sector and the community at large. Disability rights must be embedded and mainstreamed into all government strategies, policies, and plans. The Ministry of Education, for example, that once shunned and neglected the education of children with disabilities in the past, now bears the responsibility of providing education to all children, including landmine survivors, and in an inclusive manner, SDG number 4. Of course, the challenge, as always, is in the actual implementation of the law, and that will unfortunately take time to fully pan out. Having said all of the above, please do not assume that all is rosy and wonderful in Jordan on the disability front. It certainly is not. We are way behind on many issues and have monumental challenges to overcome. Many landmine and UXO survivors, for instance, still struggle on a daily basis to make ends meet, and the COVID crisis has made their situation even more difficult. What I can say, though, with some conviction, is that in general, it is a work in progress, and we are progressing. In parallel to the mainstreaming of victim assistance and/or disability rights, NCDR has also been instrumental in providing direct support to survivors whenever possible and in numerous ways. In the same way that we were able to clear all our minefields in the past, my sincere hope is that we will be able to, with a lot of hard work, sincerity, and perseverance, remove, God willing, all the barriers that impede human development, especially as they pertain to persons with disabilities. Lastly, before I end, I must again thank all our dear friends and colleagues who contributed to this report. We are forever grateful and in your debt. I especially want to thank my dear friend, Ambassador Toscano, and all the team at the GICHD, the UNDP, the Italian government, and a special shout out and a big thanks to both Angela Hoyos, Ibora, and to our dear friend, Dr. Olaf Jørgensen, for their amazing contributions to this insightful study. And lastly, a huge thanks to General Mohammed Brekat and everyone at NCDR. With my best wishes to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, for these inspiring remarks. And indeed, Olaf is already missing us now that he is out of Mine Action. He was extremely also instrumental in this study. No, really, I cannot help but emphasize also the excellent support that we have received during the research from all our partners in Jordan, and in particular from NCDR staff. Really, I think the commitment shown to this research was outstanding and was key also for the success of the study, at least from what I heard from Angela. So really, thank you again, Your Royal Highness.
Thank you too. Thank you to everyone.
I will now give the floor to our second guest, Your Excellency, Ambassador Incarnator. The floor is yours.
Your Highness, Excellencies, and dear colleagues, good afternoon from Geneva, and I'm particularly glad to take part in today's event together with you, and I wish to start thanking all the people that made this possible, even under the current circumstances. I also hope we can soon meet again in person without losing the good habit of having a cup of coffee together at this hour of the day, as we used to do in Italy. Today marks a special occasion, since the GICHD is going to present to us the result of what we consider an outstanding research. And it is not a coincidence that this is happening together with our close partners and friends of Jordan and of UNDP. We believe this witnesses the importance of a strong and consolidated partnership. And partnership is a key concept for Italy when it comes to mine action and more broadly to international cooperation. Partnership at all levels with the UN, other international and regional organizations, civil society, and survivors' organizations is the most effective way to fully implement our commitment, because partnership allows to maximize the contribution and impact of all the available expertise and knowledge. Taking the floor after Prince Mired and before Mrs. Sakai is very challenging for me because of the great experience, and I will try to benefit from the position I find myself in, just to underline a couple of points which I deem relevant for today's discussion. Looking at the Jordan example, I believe we have a success story to tell and many best practices that can be useful to other countries wishing to better integrate mine action in their national plans. The Jordan National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation has shown, as all along these years, an enormous amount of commitment. That kind of commitment which does not concern only the political or technical debate, but does address the true needs of the community. This is clear to me when I read some of the results of the research conducted by the GICHD, and every time I listen to Prince Mired's way to engage. He has mentioned the importance of considering the socioeconomic benefits of mine action as one of the main drivers to trigger sustainable development. This is a point that cannot be understood without putting the whole society at the center of our efforts, because mine action cannot be seen as a separate commitment, but at least in our view, it is part and parcel of the humanitarian action as a whole. In order to be effective, these efforts have to be designed and implemented consistently and integrated with the national development plans. This has to be seen as a way to assist and to work with the community as an essential component of their path towards a better future. For this reason, mine action should always be conceived with a holistic perspective and in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This is also what we attempt to do. Italy is committed to supporting mine action programs globally, and to this end, a dedicated trust fund was established already back in 2001. We support programs in the most deteriorated crisis areas, such as Libya, Yemen, and Syria. We also support initiatives in Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, Sudan, Colombia, and Palestine. We spare no efforts and resources to help awareness-raising initiatives aimed to widen the adherence to the relevant instruments of international law. We continue adopting an holistic approach, paying attention not only to the necessary mine clearance activities, but also to the social and long-term dimension of mine action through a growing commitment to risk education and assistance to survivors, both in terms of assistance there and socioeconomic inclusiveness. And I believe Jordan, too, has demonstrated over the years its capacity and political will to deal with mine action and its multidimensional and holistic nature in an appropriate and effective way. I also look forward to listening to Ms. Osaka's perspective, since UNDP has matured a precious experience in so many countries and working so closely with people on the field. Sorry, especially those aspects of its work related with the transition from outputs to outcomes in mine action. Let me thinking about the importance of translating our commitments in measurable results, not only in terms of specific projects, but also for the broader benefit of the development of a society. In some way, I believe this was our intention when in 2019, we designed and approved the Oslo Action Plan of the Anti-Personnel Mine Convention. Italy welcomes the partnership between UNDP and GICHD. The work you are presenting today is going to benefit many other stakeholders, and I hope that it can be used as a model to be applied to other cases. I do not want to prolong this introduction, and definitely I do not want to take any more time from the presentation, but I cannot end my intervention without acknowledging our sincere appreciation for the rigorous and committed work always realized by the GICD. Our special gratitude goes today to the director. Thank you very much, dear Stefano. And to his team, especially Angela, which has authored this brilliant study in such a professional way. I invite everybody to listen carefully to the presentation and above all, to read the publication, wishing you all to keep well and safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Ambassador, and you stress the importance of partnership, and I can confirm how pleased we are with our cooperation with your government. Italy is a very close partner of the center and also a strong supporter of our work on mine action and SDGs since the early days, actually, and this support allowed us to develop initial projects on mine action and SDG already a couple of years ago. So thank you, Ambassador, and thank you very much to Italy as well. I will now give the floor to Madam Asako Okai. Madam Assistant Secretary General, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pascal, for a kind introduction. Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues, and friends. Let me first begin by paying my highest respect to His Royal Highness Prince Mired Zayed Al Hussein for his strong support and commitment to mine action. His Royal Highness has been an outstanding champion, advocating for universalization of the Mine Ban Convention and especially highlighting the rights of mine victims. UNDP is particularly thankful for his recent engagement in the event titled Beyond the Square Meters Cleared as part of our development dialogue solution to crisis in the decade of action. I would also like to thank Ambassador Stefano Toscano, who also contributed the event mentioned, as well as the Geneva International Centre for Humanitarian Demining for hosting today's event, focusing on developmental outcome of mine action in Jordan. I look forward to deepening our discussion on how we can move from theory to practice in linking mine action to development. Let me also share appreciation to Ambassador Incarnato and the government of Italy for funding this important Jordan study. We need donors that are committed to supporting the mine action sector. And then I thank Ambassador Incarnato for our kind words to UNDP. The Jordan study is one in a series of initiatives by UNDP and GICHD, which highlight the linkage between mine action and development. In 2017, UNDP and GICHD produced a joint study, Leaving No One Behind, Mine Action and the SDGs. It demonstrated how mine action contribute to achieving of the SDGs from a conceptual perspective. In 2020, UNDP and GICHD undertook another joint study called Support for Mainstreaming Mine Action into the SDGs at the national level project, using Bosnia and Herzegovina and Jordan as two country case studies to demonstrate the real long-term development impact of mine action. Today, we are launching the Jordan example of this initiative. This year, we just launched a new project, Beyond the Square Meters, measuring mine action's impact on local sustainable development through the SDGs. This project will assess mine action intervention in 6 countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina again, and then also the new one, it will be Somalia, Ukraine, South Sudan, Afghanistan, and Iraq. To better understand how they interact with the broader development sector. As you can see, our joint UNDP-GICHD initiatives focus on the outcomes of mine action, not just the outputs. Our analytical work shows that mine action contributes to 16 SDGs and 63 targets. In this context, there are many lessons to be learned from the Jordan case study that we are launching today. We will shortly have an opportunity to hear the findings of the report in full. Thank you, Angela, for the thorough research on this. So I will mention just a few examples of how mine action contributed to development outcome in Jordan. In a beautiful coastal city of Aqaba, a mine action program released land for tourism and created new green jobs. In the fertile Jordan Valley called the breadbasket of Jordan, mine action allowed for a full utilization of land for agricultural purposes. Along the border with Syria, mine action created safe areas for the refugees to settle. The key to our successful mine action programs in Jordan was national ownership. Early in the process, UNDP was honored to serve as a strategic advisor to the government of Jordan and the National Commission for Demining and Rehabilitation of Jordan. I was heartened to hear Olaf's name repeated from many of you. So thank you for that. We highly appreciate the government's commitment, and then His Royal Highness Prince Mired in particular to cooperate for a mine-free Jordan. Moving forward, the findings of the Jordan study are informing how UNDP will work in Jordan. For instance, the study points to the need of vulnerable communities in the areas cleared from mines, such as Dead Sea Basin, which have been rehabilitated for biodiversity conservation. Recently, the Green Climate Fund was awarded its first project to Jordan, and UNDP plans to work in the FIFA protected area south of the Dead Sea in partnership with FAO. Let me end by conveying appreciation to everyone who contributed to the Jordan study. It clearly demonstrates the long-term impact of mine action 10 years after Jordan declared itself mine-free. Finally, a friendly reminder about the forthcoming International Day for Mine Awareness and Assistance in Mine Action on 4th of April. On this occasion, the UN Secretary General released a statement reminding us that landmines, explosive remnants of wars, and improvised explosive devices disproportionately affect the most vulnerable, the forcibly displaced, the dispossessed, and children. They impede peaceful solutions in the humanitarian responses and are an obstacle to sustainable inclusive development. Let us reaffirm our commitment to eradicating the damage caused by landmines and assisting those who have been harmed by their use. Thank you very much. Over back to you, Pascal.
Thank you very much, Madam Assistant Secretary General. And indeed, it's good to see that the statement of the UN Secretary General reflect also our vision and discussion today, and understand also that mine action is indeed an enabler for development. Thank you very much for this remark. And for many years, GICHD and UNDP have worked together on better connecting mine action and sustainable development. It started with the Millennium Development Goals, and now with the SDGs as the analytical framework, at the reference point. And we will continue to do so in the coming years, as you said, Madam Assistant Secretary General. So this is really an excellent partnership. UNDP has been an indispensable partner for many years, not only for the GICHD, but in mine action in general. And we will also like to thank UNDP staff for the contribution to this project. Thank you very much. Let me really now extend my gratitude to all the three of you, our three distinguished speakers, for your introductory remarks. I think it set well the stage for the coming part of our meeting, and we'll now move to what is in a way the core for today's event, which are to hear about the findings of the study. So to present the key findings, I will pass the floor to Mr. Mohamed Braikat and Ms. Angela Oyos Ibora. Please, the floor is yours. Mohamed, you're mute.
Okay, how did it? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, distinguished guests, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Please allow me to convey my sincere thanks and gratitude to the government of Italy for the generous support of Jordan's case study, and special thanks to GICHD for the execution and for UNDP for their cooperation with GICHD. Jordan acceded to the Anti-Personal Mine Ban Convention August 1198 and ratified it on November 13, 98. It entered into force for the kingdom as of May 99. And as a result of the original compliance date to meet Article 5 clearance obligations was May 1st, 2009. The origins of Jordan's landmine problem can be tracked back to 4 distinct periods: the War of 1948 and partition of Palestine, the Arab-Israeli War of attrition between 67 and 69, the internal conflict in the early 70s, and the hostilities with Syria, 1975. As reflected in the analysis that we present today, the spatial distribution of the minefields emanating from these periods of conflict was limited to 3 main areas: Jordan northern border, the Jordan Valley and Wadi Araba, and Aqaba in the south. On orders from the late King Hussein bin Talal, may God rest his soul, the Jordanian armed forces started clearing minefields in the Jordan Valley in 1993 and continued to do so till completion. However, it was not until the National Committee for Demining and Rehabilitation NCDR was fully operational in 2006 that the pace of clearance accelerated, and Jordan felt more confident about meeting its Article 5 mine clearance deadline. Limited assets and financial support prior to the establishing of NCDR prevented Jordan from meeting its original deadline of May 9, 2009. Jordan nevertheless requested an extension and was granted it, and the new deadline became May 2012. Many factors contributed to NCDR achieving this success, including the following. First, national ownership and political will. The support of His Majesty, the King, the Prime Minister, and the Chief of Staff was instrumental. Second, the leadership and transparency demonstrated by His Majesty King Hussein, His Majesty King Abdullah, the Chairman of NCDR, His Royal Highness Prince Mired, and the different ministries and government agencies all contributed to the successful outcome. Third, international cooperation and assistance. Fourth, local and international partnership. The Royal Engineering did a terrific job throughout, and the Norwegian People's Aid NPA involved and participation in clearance was outstanding. Fifth, increased resources and assets. $2.5 million annually from the government, as well as over $45 million in generous donor support. In a few minutes, my colleague Angela from GICHD will present the findings on the key role played by international cooperation and assistance to promote partnership and advance mine action efforts and sustainable development in Jordan. Sixth, national technical standards and guidelines, SOPs, and the National Mine Ban Law. In 1993, the nature and extent of the original contamination included 60 million square meters of suspected hazardous areas, approximately 500 minefields, and around 305,000 mines comprised of both anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. The secret of Jordan's success in mine action was the establishment of the civilian-based national authority, the NCDR, through law number 34 in 2000. However, NCDR became really operational when His Majesty King Abdullah issued a royal decree appointing His Royal Highness Prince Mired as the chairman of NCDR board in 2004. When I say operational, I mean planning, coordinating, supervising, and liaising with With NCDR on the scene, there was finally an overall management structure where domestic and international stakeholders could come and discuss any and all issues related to mine action, ranging from clearance to universalization to community impact. One of our goals helping us to strive for closure was for Jordan to be a success story for the Middle East, to demonstrate to other mine-affected countries in the region with the right recipe of ingredients, such as those mentioned, success can and must be attained. In Jordan, we had 3 major areas in which mine clearance projects took place. The first area was in the Jordan Valley, Wadi Araba and Aqaba, and they constitute to a very different problem, as all the known minefields had been cleared, many by the army prior to NCDR's establishment, but a lingering residual mine problem still posed a threat to civilians because the scope of this hazard was largely unknown. That is, old records showed that there were some missing mines, but the minefields had been demined and declared clear. So where were the missing mines and how many actually remained in the ground? We dealt with this issue by conducting a large-scale residual risk operation program in the Jordan Valley, which ended in 2018. The second area was the northern border with Syria, clearance project consisting of 93 minefields that contained both anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. It formed 104-kilometer mine belt along the northern border with a total area of 10,500 square meters. Under this project, the Norwegian People's Aid, NPA, executed the mine clearance component, and our Royal Engineering Corps explosive and ordnance disposal team were responsible for the destruction of fragmentation mines and other explosive ordnance identified at the project area. NCDR provided the leadership and guidance for the project and carried out quality management, reporting, issuance of clearance certificates, and liaised with the project's stakeholders. In 2012, Jordan became the first country in the Middle East to meet the deadline set by the APMBC Convention. Today, we are extremely pleased to present this pilot study carried out by GICHD, which analyzes the outcomes of mine action in the medium and long term, and hopes that this research serves as an inspiration to better connect mine action and sustainable development in many other countries. Finally, I would like to thank you all for participating in this event and to thank all our donors, especially as without their generous support, we would not have been able to achieve our goals. And now, without any further delay, I will give the floor to Angela. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Mohammed, and thank you very much to the distinguished panelists. I just want to confirm, you can see my screen, okay? Yeah. Thank you. I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to share the outcomes of our research with such diverse and experienced audience today. Over the next 10 minutes, I'll present the findings and conclusions from the study after briefly introducing key aspects of the methodology. The study analyzes the multiple contributions of mine action to sustainable development using the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, as the analytical framework. The objective is to enhance the evidence base of the transformational role of mine action, using Jordan as the case study to explore the existing benefits after decades of collective efforts in the sector. The study combines documentary analysis and field research, and as all of you can expect already, the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to adapt initial plans in several locations. Given the mobility restrictions and the impossibility to travel, a field mission was cancelled and the study had to rely mostly on desk analysis and remote exchanges with key stakeholders. Data from the interviews was cross-referenced with available statistics and official reports and complemented by satellite imagery to illustrate the developmental changes after the release of land. As mentioned, the study identifies the direct contributions of mine action activities and approaches. In most cases, changes observed cannot be attributed to the sole intervention of mine action. However, we only consider in our study those outcomes for which mine action had an essential role. In other words, we are only considering the direct contributions. But before moving on, I want to take a minute to thank NCDR and its partners for making this research possible, even in these challenging times. Allow me to thank His Royal Highness, Prince Mired, Mohammed, and of course, the entire team, but especially Mariam, Adnan, and Abdallah, and all the institutions that took part in the interview process and are also joining us today. We look forward to presenting the studies in Arabic very soon. This graphic illustrates the overall contribution of mine action to the SDGs. As you can see, mine action in Jordan has directly contributed to 16 Sustainable Development Goals, promoting the 5 core dimensions of the 2030 Agenda, which are known as the 5 Ps: people, prosperity, partnerships, peace, and planet. This is the first study that maps mine action contributions at the target level, identifying direct links with at least 63 targets. The analysis is divided in 5 sections, which explore the impact of land release, victim assistance, explosive ordnance risk education, gender mainstreaming, and partnerships and cooperation in mine action. I will now present some of the direct contributions of land release. For those who are not familiar with mine action, land release refers to the process led to identify, define, and remove all presence and suspicion of explosive ordnance. Beyond its contribution to SDG 16, in Jordan, land release contributed to 12 SDGs and 33 of their targets. Due to time constraints, only a few cases will be presented today, but I invite all of you to read the full report, which is already available on our website. As mentioned already, and given the geographical dimension of the contamination, we have structured the analysis along the 3 primarily contaminated areas: the northern border with Syria, Jordan Valley, and Aqaba. Land release in the northern border presents a strong case for the multidimensional impact of mine action. This was the last area to be cleared in the country, given the fact that this was a semi-desertic and military control zone, and beneficiaries were initially calculated to be around 50,000 in 2006. However, since the outbreak of the Syrian crisis, the number of refugees increased dramatically. As of March 2021, according to the UNHCR, there are more than 664,000 registered refugees in Jordan, and 45% of them are settled in the bordering governorates of Irbid and Mafraq. If clearance had not taken place, it would be easy to think about an unprecedented humanitarian disaster, since this is the main transportation node and the entry point for the Syrian population. So it is fair to say that the impact of land release is substantial. By promoting safe mobility and migration and reducing casualties, land release has directly contributed to targets 10.7 and 16.1. Land release in the northern border also allowed the construction of the Al-Wida Dam, which provides essential drinking water and enables agricultural irrigation. Here you can see two satellite images taken in a 14-year interval. As it becomes evident from the satellite images, there are also environmental updates in this area after clearance. Since water is Jordan's most scarce resource and has played a key role in peace agreements and large-scale development projects, Mine Action has contributed to several targets under SDG 6 on water and sanitation and SDG 8 on economic growth. Moving into the Jordan Valley now, the access to agricultural land is perhaps one of the best known results of land release. Contamination in the Jordan Valley was affecting most of the irrigated and arable land in the country. I want to share with you the case of the Golden Palm Date Farm, which was established right after demining in 1999. Date farming presents a very positive case for Jordanian development prospects since it is a high water productivity, short production chain, and provides net returns. Moreover, Jordan is one of the very few locations that meet the characteristics to grow mature dates, which offer the best potential for expansion. In this case study, the research identified multiple contributions to several targets under SDGs 2, 6, 8, and 15. There are two very powerful examples that showcase the transformational role of land release, the baptism site, also located in the Jordan Valley, and the Ayla Resort in Aqaba. You'll have the chance to hear about these two examples directly from the directors of both institutions, since they are participating today and would like to share a few insights with all of you after my presentation. In the second section of the study, we analyze the contributions of victim assistance. Victim assistance refers to the support provided to victims, including survivors. The study has identified direct contributions to 10 SDGs and 21 targets. Regarding victim assistance, NCDR supports organizations assisting landmine victims and survivors. Its victim assistance program is part of the National Disability Framework, so Mine Action specific resources have been used to improve the quality of the assistance based on lessons learned from other mine-affected countries. Just to mention two very concrete examples on how this has enabled access to health, the NCDR raised funds for the establishment of the National Centre for Rehabilitation of Amputees and a prosthetic center in Erbil. In addition, they conducted a victim survey to assess their needs and reach almost every survivor in the country via home visits. Since that primary research, the database has been updated annually. By assessing and attending the needs of victims, this contributes to several targets under SDGs 3, 5, 16, and 17. In the next section, we explore the contributions of explosive ordnance risk education, EORE, in Jordan. EORE refers to activities which seek to reduce the risk of injury from explosive ordnance by raising awareness and promoting behavioral changes. EORE should take into account the different roles and needs of the beneficiaries, which include women, girls, boys, and men. In Jordan, we identified direct contributions to 6 SDGs and 12 SDG targets. The NCDR incorporated a mine risk education program, MRE, in 2007, and currently they coordinate all the MRE activities conducted by accredited stakeholders. To standardize the delivery of risk education, national standards, SOPs, and training materials were developed. Since 2007, more than 65 basic courses have been conducted and 900 volunteers have been certified. But more important, beneficiaries are estimated to be over 1 million. All these efforts have contributed to several targets under SDGs 4, 5, 10, 16, and 17. Moving into gender mainstreaming, allow me to clarify that while this section focuses on direct contributions of the SDGs to the SDGs, all mine action programs, projects, and activities must consider gender mainstreaming. In this regard, we decided to keep this as a standalone section to highlight the importance of gender mainstreaming as a key priority for the mine action sector. While we identified direct contributions to 4 SDGs and 9 targets, it is worth noting that a gender-responsive approach to land release, victim assistance, and EORE also serve to ensure equitable results for women, girls, boys, and men, which in turn contributes to several other targets. Just to share again a few examples with you, in 2008, NPA established an all-female demining team for the first time in the Middle East. And similarly, NCDR was able to increase gender balance among its staff through its gender mainstreaming plan. These efforts are particularly important in the Jordanian context, where the female labor force is composed of 15% of the population only. Through these examples, gender mainstreaming has directly contributed to 9 targets under 4 goals. For the last section of the study, we explore the contributions of partnerships and cooperation in mine action. Similar to gender mainstreaming, partnerships are not an activity per se, but an actual approach for program implementation, which is crucial. These are key to enhance existing capacities and resource mobilization. In Jordan, we identified contributions to 3 SDGs and 10 targets. However, since partnerships and cooperation were indispensable to conduct some of mine action activities, the indirect contributions are considered to be much larger. A strong national ownership has enabled strategic partnerships and international cooperation and assistance that has helped to strengthen national capacities. This has also allowed the country to implement its demining plans more rapidly. In its latest National Mine Action Plan, the NCDR aims to assist other countries still facing contamination while growing into a regional training and research institution. The study explores the benefits of international cooperation, but also South-South and regional initiatives contributing to at least 3 SDGs. Well, the findings of the study demonstrate the multiple socioeconomic benefits in the medium and long term. This is important since mine action has at times been planned and conducted in a silo, tending to focus on immediate humanitarian outputs rather than long-term developmental outcomes. And I think we can say that by only planning and reporting on immediate outputs, we are definitely missing half of the story. The Sdg Framework allows us to assess mine action contributions to humanitarian development and sustaining peace efforts. We consider that additional case studies and refined methodology will place us in a better position to integrate mine action activities into broader national efforts, giving more visibility to our work while enabling new and crucial partnerships. We hope that these findings serve as a starting point to stimulate further discussions on the powerful potential of mine action to transform people's lives. My presentation ends here. Thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to all your questions and remain available after this meeting. Feel free to contact me anytime and I'll be delighted to follow up our conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to you, Angela, and to you, Mohammed. I think it was a very rich presentation, very dense. And I'm sure that this study, is interesting not only in terms of its findings as such, but also in terms of the methodology that allowed to reach those findings. And it's certainly a methodology that we will still improve and reproduce also for additional case studies, as you said, Angela. So a lot, I think, has been also learned through this process. So thank you again. We'll now start with the Q&A session. So I would like to remind all participants to use the Q&A button below your screen to raise a question. And while we are receiving your questions, I would just like to give the floor to Mr. Sal Dudin, Managing Director of ILA, which is showcased in our study.
Good afternoon and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Royal Highness, distinguished guests. ILA is a true example of sustainable development as a result of demining. And these pictures show some of the progress photos between the years 2009 and the years 2012, where we show a piece of land that is right at the border, which had some anti-personnel and anti-tank landmines. which is now converted into a large tourism component that increased Jordan's shoreline by 50%, which includes lagoons and includes Jordan's first golf course. And with sustainability, also we have a 6 megawatt solar power plant. The second slide shows, Angela, if you can move to the second slide, please. The second slide will show some close-up examples of what the project looks like now. It is full of life. Demining made this possible. We have hotel, residential, commercial, recreational, and Ayla has hosted many international events, triathlons and golf and wakeboarding, as well as hosting some key dignitaries and providing work opportunities for thousands of Jordanians and along the Sustainable Development Goals. I was given 2 minutes, and I think a picture says 1,000 words. So these pictures just show the results. And I would like to stress on the words of His Highness Prince Mired, when he said how proud we are as Jordanians of being featured as achieving the full demining goal. And we're glad that Ayla is a main beneficiary of this, and the pictures are right in front of you. And I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much indeed. The picture is really, our pictures are really impressive. I mean, just to think that it was a minefield or mined area there, and to see now where we are, I mean, it's really, really impressive. Thank you very much for these additions. I think it adds a lot also to the findings which we just heard about. Before moving really now in the Q&A, I'm also excited to give the floor briefly to Rustam Makhshan. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce well your name. Who is Assistant Director General at the Baptism Site Commission, will also share very brief insights. You have the floor, sir.
Thanks ever so much, Pascal. Actually, I'm the Director General now. Your Royal Highness, Excellencies, dear speakers, partners, and participants, I thank you ever so much for giving me this opportunity to briefly share my experience about the baptism site of Jesus Christ. Well, in 1995, two of the Royal Hashemite family, the Royal Highnesses Prince Al Hassan and Prince Ghazi, were at the site with a priest from the Franciscan Church, the late Father Michele Piccirillo, when there were still minefields at the site. But they were totally convinced about the importance of the site, so high-level orders were given to demine the area. Now, excavations right afterwards led to the rediscovery of important remains such as monasteries and churches closely linked with the important biblical events that took place at the site, and it was crowned by the baptism of Jesus Christ, the start of his ministry and the beginning of Christianity. Well, to be quite honest, His Majesty King Hussein appointed his cousin then, His Royal Highness Prince Ghazi, to be head of Board of Trustees. Well, letters of authentication from heads of all important churches throughout the world were sent, and then they all visited the site too. So therefore, we've also had so many VIPs that other sites have not received within the last 20 years, wherever we're talking about in the entire world. Our last VVIP was Their Majesties King and Queen of Norway on the 3rd of March last year, actually, who were received by Their Majesties, the Crown Prince and Prince Ghazi. I had the honor to explain to them, to tell them so much about not only the rediscovery of such a very important site, not only for Christians on earth, but for Muslims, Jews, for the three monastic religions, and moreover for mankind. Because, as you all know, His Majesty in the year 2010 offered what's called the Interfaith Harmony Message in the United Nations that was unanimously adopted. And we in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan celebrated the first week of February every year ever since. Now, briefly, I'd like to say that eventually the site became a World Heritage Site, so it belongs to all of you. We've received over 2 million, I beg your pardon, pilgrims and visitors within the last 18 years of the reopening of the site after the demining. So the result and outcome is great. We have opened such a very important site, the place where Christianity physically started, to everybody on earth. And this is a great example of the sustainable development outcome that was mentioned as an example. So allow me to thank you ever so much for giving me the floor for a couple of minutes, and hope to see you very, very soon in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, and specifically at the baptism site of Jesus Christ. God bless you all, and thanks ever so much again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director General, and thank you as well for this very, very illustrative example. Another one that leaves no doubt, again, about the contribution of Mine Action to much more than Mine Action, much more than humanitarian objectives. So in the meantime, we have received a couple of questions. Again, I mean, if you realize that your question has not been picked or answered, there will be a possibility also then for a follow-up, and we will be following up with you on your questions. So please don't worry if we don't provide an answer in the next couple of minutes. Let me maybe pick a first one, which is really about a question relating to other case studies. There's a question whether those other case studies have been done already, and if not, which are those countries, and whether the methodology will be adjusted, adapted, or remain the same. I think I'll give you the floor, Angela, for this one.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. We conducted 2 previous studies that are somewhere related to the one we are launching today. We conducted a study in 2017, mentioned by Ms. Okai in the opening remarks, that analyzed the potential contribution of Mine Action to the SDGs, but without a specific or focus or a national focus. Then we conducted another study in 2019 to understand how contamination and clearance contributed to the SDGs at the goal level. This is the first time that we look at Mine Action activities and approaches. As mentioned, we are looking at 5 different aspects using the Sdg Framework as the analytical framework of reference. So that's why we insist on the fact that this is the first of its kind study, and the idea is to continue and upgrade this methodology and adjust it to different contexts. So far, I must say that we will be very busy in the next years. Thanks to the support of Ireland, will be conducted 2 new case studies in Cambodia and Colombia in 2021. And thanks to the support of Germany, will be supporting UNDP to conduct 6 additional case studies in Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Ukraine, and South Sudan. I haven't forgot anyone. These are the 8 studies that are in the pipeline now. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you, Angela. So I have another question there that is also still somehow also about the methodology. So let me read it. So you mentioned, Angela, that the study focused on those SDGs and targets where Mine Action made a clear contribution rather than looking at attribution. So what criteria were used to determine that the contribution of Mine Action was significant, and to what extent were this contribution measurable? So I think it's really this issue of attribution. How can we attribute development outcome to Mine Action when actually there are a number of other factors contributing to development that might actually work side by side with Mine Action projects? So can you tell us something about this?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. That's a very good question. Basically, I mean, we cannot attribute to Mine Action the result of most of the very important outcomes we've seen today. However, we can affirm that Mine Action was necessary for these outcomes to happen. So that's the difference between attribution and contribution. For us to be able to say that Mine Action can be attributed any of these outcomes, we should be able to affirm that no other actor or effort was in place for this result to happen. So that's the difference. And we wanted to make a clear distinction between direct and indirect contributions, moving from the 2017 study where we highlighted also indirect contributions, and in some cases there were some discrepancies or questions from different actors in terms of to which extent we should continue attributing or affirming that mine action contributes to things if it's tangential and it's not a direct contribution. That's why we wanted to move to direct contributions only. I hope I answered.
Thank you. I hope so, but I think so. Now there's a question related. It's an interesting one, I think. Whether the study looked at unexpected consequences of mine action. I think this is a topic that is also relevant when discussing mine action and environment. There might be side effects, so to say, undesired side effect of mine action in some cases. If we think, for example, about the impact on environment of some mine action activities, of explosions, for example. So is this something that you looked at as well in the study? I don't know if I should give you the floor, Angela, or if also colleagues from Jordan or from UNDP would like also to respond. Please let me know.
I can go ahead, and then if colleagues want to contribute, because since it's related to the research, basically when we were analyzing the impact in the medium term, in many ways we identified unexpected results. I think this, especially the approach you were mentioning in terms of environmental impacts, it's important to mention our past study in Angola, because they are still facing contamination challenges. So they do not have such a large time lapse between clearance and the results. And we were able to see, for instance, the issue of deforestation after land clearance, so mine clearance. So it was not, of course, mine action responsibility, but the fact that there were no regulations in place allow for the deforestation to happen. The case of Jordan is super interesting in terms of unexpected results, especially positive unexpected results, because we've been able to look at areas that were clear a decade or even 2 decades ago. So a lot of things have happened afterwards that were not foreseen. The most outstanding case for me is the Syrian Jordanian border. When that area was cleared, that was the last area to be cleared in the country, as the number of beneficiaries was not considered to be really high. However, after the outbreak of the Syrian crisis, the number of refugees, as I mentioned, skyrocketed, and one can think about the disastrous consequences of not having this land cleared by that time. So in a way, whenever we look at the impact, we also look at what was planned and what was unexpected after the intervention.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Angela. I don't know if colleagues from Jordan would like to add something. I see Youraya, please, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. Anyway, I think Angela, she gave a good response. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think Angela, she responded quite nicely, but in Jordan, maybe the study was just concerned mainly about landmines issues, but at the same time, we are working in parallel with UXOs in different areas in Jordan, and even on the borders between whether in Jordan Valley or in the northern border, we found a lot of UXOs, and the military, they took care of them. So we are looking at both issues in the same time, and we cleared everything so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Prince Mired, did you want to add something?
Yes, no, it's just General Mohammed and I, we think alike. And General Mohammed just pointed out the issue that I wanted to say also, that we hit many birds with one stone. So of course, under the articles of the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, we're only particularly responsible to clear anti-personnel mines, but we took advantage of our mandate and cleared all unexploded ordnance on our territory, and so we didn't just clear minefields, we cleared a greater areas, and till today we're working on one particular area where there is thank God no landmines, but there is quite a bit of unexploded ordnance, and so you know, we are continuing with the good work, and it's the impacts are quite substantial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I have another one on EOR, on risk education. Maybe we can split it in two parts, and maybe the first part might be best answered by our colleagues from Jordan, and then the second part maybe by you, Angela. So is EOR still ongoing since clearance finished? That would be the first part. And then how did you assess EOR outcome when EOR may have already ended a few years back? Should I give the floor to maybe to you, Mohammed?
Yeah, okay. In fact, we started risk education in 2007, you know, and especially it was for the Jordanians close to the minefields, mainly close to the borders. We spent about 4 years educating people or doing awareness for our people. Then after the Syrian crisis, you know, so we finished with Jordan, so we decided to go and do some risk education for the Syrians, hoping they will go back one day and to be aware. We did awareness more than 400,000 Syrians, and we gave even some training as TOT courses for the Syrians. At least when they go back, they can train other people doing it. The feedback, in fact, we received a good feedback from those people who went back to Syria and from their relatives, you know, and because they were even the refugees in Jordan, they used to talk to their relatives inside Syria and to aware them about the UXOs and mines and so on. And they were the feedback was good from the people from inside Syria. In fact, that gave us a good indication about the feedback or the results of the risk education. You know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Angela, do you want to add something on the?
I think to the second part of the question, you ask about how can we measure the impact of ERE activities if it's ended a few years ago. And basically, I'll respond very, very briefly, just to clarify. This is quite, I mean, well explained in the study, but we did not have the chance today. This is not an evaluation of mine action activities, but what we are doing here is mapping the outputs, outcomes, and contributions of these activities and approaches. So in this regard, for instance, for EORE, we relied mostly on documents provided by the different accredited organizations working in Jordan. And of course, we interview the head of EORE, MRE in NCDR, and other colleagues to understand what was the approach in place and also the type of activities and assistance they were provided.
Thank you, Angela. I have now another question, and maybe Angela, to give you also a break, I will maybe select a question that probably Ambassador Incarnato or Madam Asakokai might be in a good position to answer. It's more about the funding environment and about international cooperation and assistance. I think it's an important one as well. Let me read it loud. The research suggests the need to change the paradigm to envisage mine action not from a humanitarian perspective, but as a development issue. Do you consider that this would increase international cooperation and interest of donors, or quite the opposite? Maybe just to add a little caveat to this question is, I think we're suggesting to emphasize in the study the role of mine action in enabling development, while being also at the same time a humanitarian activity. I mean, mine action saves lives every day. It remains a humanitarian activity, but I think what we're suggesting is that it's not only a humanitarian activity, it's also much more than that. But still, the question is very relevant. And may I give maybe the floor to Ambassador Incarnato or Madam Asakokai? I don't know if one of you would be keen to answer, Madam.
Oh, I'll be happy to start, and then Ambassador, please add your perspective. Actually, this is a very to the point question that the challenges we face at the development and humanitarian community in common. Shrinking ODA, and then the efforts by the traditional donors to concentrate on their home situation with the COVID crisis unfolding and so forth. We feel that the financial landscape for the humanitarian assistance as well as the development assistance is really jeopardized if the trends goes on toward the shrinking ODA. So that's why we are at the UN advocating for the value of multilateralism, solidarity, cooperation, and so forth. And we ask all the donors to contribute, continue to contribute as the need is just mounting. But on the question, we hope that we can secure the funding for the humanitarian assistance as well as the development assistance. In terms of the mine action, the contribution to development, this is what the UNDP trying to put the emphasis on because as you see in the Jordan study, the contribution of mine action to sustainable development in the society to prosper is so important, but it has not been highlighted well enough. And then the measurement and the impact need to be made available so that we can put more effort toward that. That's why I'm very thankful for this study showcasing really the impact that we can bring about from the developmental perspective. It should go hand in hand. That's why we call in the international community that the nexus between the humanitarian development and then also peace sectors as well. We hope that we make a good case for this, both to contribute from the life-saving part as well as the contribution and prosperous for the economy and society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And indeed, we're talking today about mine action and SDGs. And in our next event, we might be talking about mine action and the triple nexus to be more comprehensive and also to capture the potential peace dividend mine action can deploy. Let me give the floor to Ambassador Incanato, who might add to this. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Do you hear me?
We hear you well.
Okay, thank you. Oh, indeed, the linkage between mine action and humanitarian development can increase the interest of donors. It's legally fundamental to put the issue in relationship. And this is our optic, if I may, also for coordinating among donors, which is a fundamental issue to obtain. We were part and parcel of this project, and we had to clarify many points to other donors, but not only for the case of Jordan, but also in other cases, the linkage between humanitarian aspects, disarmament, and the opportunities for donors to make reference, to propose, to add something is of fundamental importance. And definitely Italy is part of and parcel of these projects.
As demonstrated through this study. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you. Let me read out another question. From a good friend of Jordan, a good friend of mine action and of the center. So who is asking or maybe reminding us that part of the success of the program in Jordan was to work closely with the Royal Engineers, and is asking what kind of advice you might give us on working with militaries in the support of humanitarian and development goals. Can I give the floor maybe to you, Prince Mired?
Thank you so much for the question. Of course, in my humble opinion, militaries around the world can do a phenomenal job in demining and can be a great force for good. But in my humble opinion, and I think it's it's outlined in the convention, I think that it should be civilian-led, and there should be a civilian national authority that leads the way, but of course the military can and could be an operator. But in my humble opinion, it very much has to be civilian-based, because a civilian national authority, for instance, has the capacity and the access to donors, to the United Nations, to the international organizations, NGOs, and it makes gives the chance for success is much higher if the national authority is a civilian body. So thank you. I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. And I think this is an important, very important clarification, and in a way nuance as well. And I think when we speak about humanitarian demining, what is it that makes humanitarian demining humanitarian? And it has to do more, indeed, it relates more to the objectives and to the entity which is overseeing the work rather than the operators as such. Thank you very much for this clarification. We will take, I suggest, 2 more questions before moving slowly to the conclusion of our event. Let me convey this one, which is asking about first, I mean, there is an expression of congratulation to Jordan for its achievement in completing demining, and also for the impressive development that has occurred on formerly mined areas. The question is the following: did the study also look at any challenges in terms of achieving equitable development? And that is a reference to this core principle of the SDGs, which is about leaving no one behind. So a question in relation to this principle, it is something that that was addressed, or could it be addressed better in subsequent studies? I hope I understood or reflected well on the question. Shall I give you the floor, Angela, maybe?
Yes,
it's been a while. You haven't.
No, I'm trying to find the question directly to have a direct interpretation, but I understand what I understand from the question. I hope I got it right. Basically, we did such an analysis, but it was a preliminary one. Of course, I mean, we hope that these findings can also be uptaken from other actors interested in analyzing in more detail any of the dimensions that are analyzed, because of course, with mine action and developmental background, we look at the different results, but are very diverse and go from clean energy to protection of cultural heritage. So we do a preliminary review of this, but we encourage any interested actor to look or to have a closer look at them, and that can be a very interesting and useful starting point.
Thank you, Angela. And so I said we will go through 2 more. I would suggest, I mean, let's add 1 more. We still have a couple of minutes. So, I mean, there is, or maybe it's more a comment, so that will not count as a question, but it's just an encouragement to really use even more the power of pictures. I think some were impressed by, this visualization, the ability also to really see with our eyes what has happened to a land which was formerly mined, impacted. So just an encouragement to rely even more on pictures in our future work. And now moving to the last question. It's a simple one. how shall we proceed if we want to be part of this series of studies? Good question, Angela.
I don't know if they should be asking this to me, but if I can ask, as I mentioned, we have already some plans for this year and the coming year, but we are always open and looking forward to hearing from countries and identifying opportunities to support. So if you feel and that your country or could make a good case study for a similar research, contact us anytime and we'll be glad to identify the resources and the resources, including time, space, etc., to proceed and conduct such a research.
Thank you, Angela. And this brings us slowly to the conclusion of this webinar. Thank you very much from my side to all your questions, to your participation, also to the distinguished speakers. I would like now to just clarify again that you will have a chance also to continue exchanging with us, interacting with us. You will be following up also on the questions that have been raised and remain unanswered. And just to say also that it is just the beginning of a long series of case studies and work on this topic. So stay tuned. And without further ado, I would like to now give the floor for the concluding remarks to the director of the GICHD, Ambassador Stefano Toscano. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Pascal. So dear colleagues, dear friends, dear participants, thank you very much for being with us today in this excellent event. My gratitude goes first to our remarkable panelists, to His Royal Highness Prince Mired, who I'm very happy to say continues to be a key player in mine action in his country, but also globally. I'm thinking here particularly of the Ottawa Convention, and we are all in the sector very grateful for it. Then to Ambassador Incarnato, grazie mille per il sostegno of Italy, the Director Okai of UNDP. It is a great pleasure and privilege for us to be able to work with UNDP on this subject matter and to continue to do so. As Angela said, we have a lot in store and we are looking forward to it. Then to General Breikat of NCDR. It was really great to conduct the study with you and your colleagues. And of course, to my good colleague, Angela Oyo-Sibora, who really did a great job here and also today responding to challenging questions. So thanks a lot. I also would like to thank you, the various institutions which have contributed to the research, and the representative, some of them are attending the event today and even contributed to it. I'm thinking here of Mr. Sahel Dudin of ILA, but also Mr. Rustom Mkijan of the Baptism Site Commission. So thank you to you as well. Dear colleagues, I think today's event shows us once more that while mine action remains a necessary response to a humanitarian imperative, it also plays a critical role to lay the foundation of sustainable development. And the SDGs provides us with the perfect framework to assess whether our interventions, whether mine action interventions, lead to progress across what we would call now the triple nexus: humanitarian, peace, and development. And I think this also plays to two important aspects. One is strengthen national ownership, which I think, as Prince Mired pointed out, is absolutely key for successful mine action and will remain so in the years ahead, but also the sustainability of mine action activities. And this really is a big achievement if we can make this kind of connections. It has been pointed out by Director Okai and Ambassador Incarnato, and we all know it, the COVID pandemic has led to competing priorities, but also to an ever-growing pressure on available resources. And I'm also fully convinced that in such a context, with those developments, enabling synergies and fostering partnership is going to be important more than ever. more than ever, and we need to take this into account as we move ahead. And the experience from Jordan testifies the role that Mine Action can have in benefiting long-term development. And we very much hope that this study and other studies to follow will stimulate further efforts to make that connection as we go about our strategic planning, but also our daily work. So, dear colleagues, as Angela mentioned, actually you scare me a little bit, Angela, with this long list of countries, but we do indeed plan to deliver additional case studies. We will do, of course, in cooperation with UNDP and other partners. And in this context, please know that very soon there will be another launch. We will be having the pleasure of launching a new publication of ours dedicated to experiences made in Bosnia-Herzegovina and Lao PDR with respect to the linkage between Mine Action and the SDGs. And this is the publication, and we will be launching it soon. So much work is still needed to realize that the full benefits of Mine Action in this triple nexus, and we will remain committed to actively contributing towards that. So let me close by thanking once again, and in particular, all the participants in this event. You have joined us from various parts of the world under different time zones, and we had government representative practitioners from the sector, from outside the sector, but also the UN, civil society, the private sector was with us as well, and academia. And I think this is one of the upsides of this kind of remote event that make all this possible. So thank you for being with us, and we really count on your support, on the precious support of us as a sector to bring our collective efforts to a next level, and to keep on working towards this universal goal that we all have to leave no one behind. So with this, I think if you will allow me, colleagues, I will bring the event to a closure. Thank you once again, and please keep safe and healthy, and looking forward to being with you again very soon. Thank you very much.